It was a Friday night at LaWell Apoke, the luxury restaurant I had poured my heart and soul into building. The place buzzed with the clinking of crystal glasses, the murmur of expensive conversations, and the soft hum of live piano music drifting through the air. Servers glided across the marble floors like shadows, balancing trays laden with dishes that cost more than most people made in a week. And there I was, Evelyn Carter, the owner of this establishment, wearing a black apron over my designer dress, serving tables because one of my waitstaff had called in sick. I wasn't ashamed to roll up my sleeves when needed. After all, this restaurant was my dream. But tonight felt different. The energy in the room crackled with an undercurrent of tension as soon as he walked in. A man whose reputation preceded him. Marcus Langley, billionaire tech mogul, strode through the entrance like he owned the place. His tailored navy suit screamed wealth, his Rolex gleamed under the chandeliers, and his smirk seemed permanently etched onto his face. He scanned the dining area with disdain before settling on me, holding out his menu without even looking at me properly. "This is your best table?" he drawled, his voice dripping with condescension. "Even beggars would eat this food?" The words hit me like a slap. My hands froze mid-motion as I adjusted his napkin. For a moment I thought I had misheard him, but the sneer curling his lips confirmed it. Every pair of eyes in the vicinity turned toward us, their gazes sharp and curious. Heat rushed to my cheeks, but not from embarrassment. No, this was something else entirely. Anger simmering beneath the surface, threatening to boil over. Marcus leaned back in his chair, oblivious to the storm brewing inside me. "You know," he continued, louder now, clearly enjoying the attention, "if you can't afford decent staff, maybe you should reconsider running such a pretentious operation." His laugh echoed across the room, punctuated by scattered chuckles from his entourage seated beside him. My jaw tightened, but I forced myself to stay composed. This wasn't just about me. It was about every person who worked here. Every late night I'd spent perfecting recipes, every sacrifice I had made to turn this dream into reality. I couldn't let him see how deeply his words cut. Not yet. Instead, I gave him a polite smile, though my knuckles whitened around the tray. "Would you care for some water while you decide on your orders, sir?" I asked, my tone smooth despite the fury bubbling within me. He waved me off dismissively, already engrossed in mocking another server nearby. As I stepped away, I caught glimpses of pitying looks from my team and judgmental stares from other patrons. Some whispered behind their menus, others shook their heads. It stung, but only for a second, because deep down I knew what came next would change everything. Tonight wasn't going to end with Marcus Langley walking away unscathed. Oh no, tonight he was going to learn exactly who I was and why crossing me was the biggest mistake of his life. Let me take you back to earlier that day, long before Marcus Langley sauntered into LaWell Apoke. It started like any other morning. Well, almost. The sun peeked through the blinds of my apartment, casting golden streaks across the hardwood floor. I woke up early as usual, fueled by the kind of restless energy that comes with knowing you're responsible for something bigger than yourself. Today wasn't supposed to be special, just another day at the helm of the restaurant I'd built from scratch. But fate has a funny way of rewriting plans. By 8 a.m., I was already at the restaurant, reviewing inventory lists and finalizing the prep schedule with Chef Antoine. We were preparing for a busy weekend, and every detail mattered. The kitchen smelled of fresh herbs and simmering sauces, a comforting reminder of why I fell in love with this industry in the first place. My phone buzzed incessantly, emails from suppliers, texts from staff, reservation confirmations piling up. Yet amidst the chaos, there was a rhythm, a quiet satisfaction in seeing everything come together. But then came the call that changed everything. One of my servers, Mia, phoned in sick. She sounded miserable, her voice hoarse and strained. "Evelyn, I'm so sorry," she rasped. "I'll make it up to you. I promise." Normally, I would have shrugged it off. These things happen. But today we were short-staffed as it was. Every server counted. So without hesitation, I told her to rest and assured her I'd cover her shift. After all, I'd waited tables myself during the early days of opening the restaurant. How hard could it be? What I didn't anticipate was how much the universe seemed determined to test me. By noon, disaster struck again. Our sous chef accidentally burned his hand while pulling a tray out of the oven. He was rushed to urgent care, leaving us short-handed in the kitchen too. Chef Antoine shot me a look that said, "We'll manage." But I could see the stress lines forming around his eyes. And then, just as dinner service approached, the power flickered. Not enough to shut us down, but enough to send everyone into a panic. That's when I realized tonight wasn't going to be easy. Still, I rolled up my sleeves, tied on an apron, and stepped into the fray. If anyone noticed their boss doubling as a waitress, they didn't say a word. Everyone was too busy scrambling to keep the ship afloat. The irony wasn't lost on me. I'd worked tirelessly to build a business where I could step back and focus on strategy. Yet here I was, juggling plates and refilling water glasses like I had years ago. And then Marcus Langley walked in. In hindsight, maybe I should have seen it coming. Wealthy clients often visited LaWell Apoke, drawn by its reputation for excellence. But none of them carried themselves quite like Marcus. From the moment he entered, he radiated entitlement, his presence commanding attention whether he wanted it or not. When he made that crack about beggars and our food, part of me wanted to snap right then and there, to reveal who I really was and watch the smugness drain from his face. But I didn't. Instead, I swallowed my pride, reminded myself of the bigger picture, and kept moving. Because sometimes revenge isn't about lashing out in the heat of the moment. Sometimes it's about patience, about waiting for the perfect opportunity to strike. And trust me, Marcus Langley had no idea what was coming.